We want to talk about evolution again, and to find out, every so often we watch Jeopardy, and every so often they have a science thing, and it sounds so sure and so factual, and thing that happened during the Cretaceous period and all that. And the thing is, if you're a science person, you just have to go with that. You have to follow along, because who are you to step in across the teaching of all these people? It's just that there's no proof to it. How about Ape-Men? We can see them everywhere. The cavemen are on the commercials now, I noticed. And it's just that they didn't really exist. I knew a caveman. My brother actually lived in a cave. He was down in Louisiana, and it was just easier. He found some furniture, put it in there, and then one day he was brokenhearted when he came home and found somebody else had come into the cave and took all his stuff out. And so he moved back up to, I think, Indiana at the time. People have always lived in caves. It's an easy place, just not a very secure thing, but keeps the rain off of you and whatever else. And one entrance probably could be guarded. But cavemen, in the sense that that's all they knew how to do, never happened. It never was. The human race started with Adam and Eve, perfect human beings, perfectly able to think and speak and walk upright and all of this stuff. So the whole idea of ape-men is just a fantasy. What about all the proof? Well, for over a century, studies of skulls and teeth have produced, let's call it, unreliable conclusions about man's origin. They have to find the intermediate species between ape and man, see? Mark Collard, Bernard Wood, how reliable are human phylogenetic hypotheses? This in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, volume 97, so there's a lot to say there, I guess. Here's what they said. Existing phylogenetic hypotheses about human evolution based on skulls and teeth are unlikely to be reliable. There it is. In other words, if you imagine that these skull pieces and these teeth came from a human or an early human, maybe so, maybe came from something else. Also, fossil evidence allegedly supporting human evolution is fragmentary and open to other interpretations. Fossil evidence showing the evolution of chimpanzees, supposedly the closest living relative to humans, is non-existent. We've mentioned this once before. There are no pre-chimpanzee forms. None. All the fossils we find all over the world, none. Nothing shows something became a chimpanzee. Henry Gee, Return of the Planet of the Apes, in Nature, 2001. Fossil evidence of human evolutionary history is fragmentary and open to various interpretations. Fossil evidence of chimpanzee evolution is absent altogether. Truth be known, human evolution is also completely unknown. Stories claiming that fossils of primitive ape-like men have been found are overstated. Let me give you some examples. It is now universally acknowledged that Piltdown Man was a hoax, meaning not just a mistake, there was a deliberate pretense. An ape jaw was filed down to look human. A dentist recognized it going through the museum and said, but this has been filed down. And so people started checking into it, said, well, yes, it's obvious from looking at it. And, then stained to look like old. Yet it was in the textbooks for more than 40 years. You think they were paying attention? They were saying, aha, 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 we found it, we found it, we found it. Speaking of Piltdown Man, Lewin admits a common human problem even scientists have. That is, how is it that trained men, the great experts of their day, could look at a set of modern human bones, the cranial fragments, and see a clear simian signature in them, and see in an ape's jaw the unmistakable signs of humanity? What is going on? What are these trained men, greatest experts? What are they, just stupid or what? No. He says the answers inevitably have to do with the scientists' expectations, their prejudice, what they wanted to see. Somebody said seeing is believing. In many cases, believing is the seeing. I have looked at something and thought to myself, that's what it is. When I got up closer, that was not it. It was what I believed it is what I saw. Scientists' expectations and their effects on the interpretation of data. Lewin, bones of contention. I thought that was clever. The thing is that you see what you want to see because so much is depending on this being the great intermediates, the Ape-Man. Finally, the link is there. Since 1953, when Piltdown Man was discovered to be a hoax, at least 11 people have been accused of perpetrating the hoax. We were looking all around, These included, 53, 47, I was 6 years old. These included Charles Darwin himself, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. When I was in college, my science teacher said that he thought that it was Chardin who did it, but then Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes. However, the hoaxer now appears to have been Martin A.C. Hinton, who had a reputation as a practical joker and worked in the British Museum of Natural History when Piltdown Man was discovered in the mid-1970s. So I had already graduated from college at that time. An old trunk marked with Hinton's initials was found in the museum's attic. The trunk contained bones stained and carved in the same detailed way as the Piltdown bones. Aha. This picture, you can't really see it, but these are some of the things they found in the box. For details, see Henry Gee, Box of Bones, clinches identity of Piltdown paleontologic hoaxer, and found other maybe trial efforts at doing it. How he must have laughed up his sleeve to see all these somber scientists saying, aha, here is unquestionable proof of this. Before 1977, evidence for Ramapithecus was a mere handful of teeth and jaw fragments. And so they made up a person. This was a caveman, Ape-Man. We now know these fragments were pieced together incorrectly by Louis Leakey. You've heard of the Leakey experiments, or what do they call it, expedition, and others into a form resembling part of the human jaw. Ramapithecus was just an ape. Again, the only remains of a Nebraska man turned out to be a pig's tooth. See the sketch at the right there? You look up Nebraska man. This is what he looked like after they had a pig's tooth. They said, aha, now we know what the man looked like. So you think they were stretching it a bit. I was reading about it, and it says, it was later found to be a different species. Yeah, a pig. Come on. You can't tell. What? 40 years after he discovered Java Man, Eugene Dubois conceded that it was not a man, but it was similar to a large gibbon, an ape. In citing evidence to support this new conclusion, Dubois admitted he had withheld part of 4 other thigh bones of the apes found in the same area. Is this science? Is this discovering things? Or is it pushing things into a place where it seems just for the fame, just for the... And then what kind of fame is it when you find out you just lied? Java man consisted of two bones found 39 feet apart, a skull cap and a femur, thigh bone. Rudolf Virchow, the famous German pathologist, believed that the femur was from a gibbon, ape. By concurring, Dubois supported his own non-Darwinian theory of evolution, a theory too complex and strange to discuss here, so something even weirder than Darwin. Whether or not the bones were from a large-brained gibbon, a hominid, a term that they like to use because it sounds like human and near human, another animal or two completely different animals is not the only issue. This episode shows how easily the person who knew the bones best could shift his interpretation from Java man to Java gibbon. When evidence is so fragmentary, many interpretations are possible, and only one, if that, could be true. Just guessing. Many experts consider the skulls of Peking man to be the remains of apes that were systematically decapitated and exploited for food by true man. Its classification, Homo erectus, is considered by most experts to be a category that should never have been created. Most experts now. First confirmed limb bones of Homo habilis were discovered in 1986. They showed that this animal clearly had ape-like proportions and should never have been classified as man-like, the Homo part of the Homo whatever. Kenneth A.R. Kennedy, quoted in Homo erectus never existed in Geotimes. The reanalysis of Narmada man puts another nail in the coffin of Homo erectus as a viable taxon. Taxon is a taxonomy title. So the Australopithecines, made famous by Lewis and Mary Leakey, are quite distinct from humans. Not humans, distinct from humans. Several detailed computer studies of Australopithecines have shown that their body proportions were not intermediate between those of man and living apes. Another study, which examined their inner ear bones used to maintain balance, showed a striking similarity to those of chimpanzees and gorillas, but great differences from those of humans. Likewise, their pattern of dental development corresponds to chimpanzees, not humans. Claims were made based on one of the Australopithecine fossil, a 3.5-foot tall, long-armed, 60-pound adult called Lucy. You've all heard of Lucy, perhaps? Hailed as the one true in-between man and ape. So claims were made based on this that all Australopithecines walked upright in a human manner. However, studies of Lucy's entire anatomy, not just a knee joint, now show that this is very unlikely. We had our brother was with us at the time and gave a science story up here and talked about the shovel-shaped pelvis of Lucy. And you can't stand upright. A human pelvis is made to stand upright. The shovel ones are made to be supported by the arms in the front and the shorter legs in the back. Could not have walked upright. Just impossible. Very unlikely. She likely swung from the trees and was similar to pygmy chimpanzees. The Australopithecines are probably extinct apes. Matt Cartmill, 100 years of paleanthropology, there it is, paleanthropology, American Scientist, volume 74. At present, we have no grounds for thinking that there was anything distinctively human about Australopithecine ecology and behavior. at present, we have no grounds anything distinctly human. They were surprisingly ape-like in skull form, premolar dentition, limb proportions, morphology of some joint surfaces, and they may still have been spending a significant amount of time in the trees. James Shreve, New Skeleton Gives Path from Trees to Ground an Odd Turn in Science magazine. The proportions calculated for Africanus turned out to be amazingly close to those of a chimpanzee, with big arms, small legs. One might say, we are kicking Lucy out of the family tree, says Berger. Yeah, that's what happens when you actually know what you're talking about. So let me close then with, for about 100 years, think of this now, 100 years, they're still pretending this stuff. The world was led to believe that Neanderthal man was stooped and ape-like. This false idea was based upon some Neanderthals with bone diseases such as arthritis and rickets. They were deformed, but that came from the disease. Decent dental and X-ray studies of Neanderthals suggest that they were humans who matured at a slower rate, lived to be much older than people today. Neanderthal man, Heidelberg man, Cro-Magnon man are now considered completely human. Not pre-human, not ape-human, just human. I was reading an article that said that skulls that are essentially Neanderthal are found in human beings in southern France. It just seems to be pretty much, in fact, I think it was Lafayette, the guy that helped out the American Revolution, was it? That head shape is Neanderthal. But he wasn't walking on his knuckles or anything. Artist drawings of ape-men, especially their fleshy portions, which haven't lasted, are often quite imaginative and are not supported by the evidence. Furthermore, the techniques used to date these fossils are highly questionable. So we should say to them, time to give it up. You need to come to a different theory, one that you can actually prove. If it's supposed to be science, you should should have found some evidence by this time. Where is the evidence? You keep telling us you need evidence to believe in God. We need evidence to believe this falsehood.